Good evening. It is Monday, the 24th of July, 2023. It's just coming up to 8:30 p.m. UK time. And this is episode or show 6 of the 45 Day Show. This is a show I've been doing a little while. I sort of get guests on who talk to me about what they're doing at the moment or what they've got coming up. And it's always fun to speak to people and get their sort of views about what's going to happen in the future. And then sometimes I've had people coming back on again, like ADP, before and after the big weekender. He came on again after the show. And we might do the same with my guest tonight, because we're going to talk about many things, but one of them is an event that he's organizing in aid of men's mental health, Calm Charity, a charity that's very close to our hearts. Here at 45 Day, we've done events and raised money for Calm as well. But yeah, we're going to talk about all sorts of things. But without further ado, he is Nice Guy Fryer.
Hello, hello. How are we doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you doing on this Monday? Has it been sunny or rainy today?
Grey, bit of rain for sure. But as I look out the window now, I can see a little bit of blue, but not much.
I'm still waiting for this heat wave that we were promised. We were told, yeah, there's a heat wave coming, but hopefully this weekend.
Well, we'll see. I certainly don't want 40 degrees heat, that's for sure.
No,
I've got a bit of Irish blood in me, and I don't do well in the heat. So
fair enough. Right. So you haven't been on my show before, but what I do with a lot of my guests is I always ask them about musical influences, because I'm really intrigued as to how people first get into music, what sort of age, who it is who sort of got them into the music and the style of music. So for you, what was the sort of first sort of memory of music and it being something important, perhaps? Let's put it in that way.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I guess mine's probably quite similar to a lot of people. It was growing up around parents listening to music, and ultimately that kind of shaped certainly my early influences.
Yeah.
So my dad was more rock. So I grew up with things like Status Quo, Dire Straits, Led Zeppelin.
Remind me to say something about Status Quo in a minute.
Okay, all right, we'll come back to the Quo. So yeah, so very much kind of rock, that side of things.
Yeah.
And then my mum, it was more soul, Motown, and then reggae. So I grew up listening to all sorts of stuff, to be fair. Whether it be in the car, my mum driving me somewhere, then having her music on, or even as a kid, I remember I would sit at my old man's hi-fi stack. I'd stick my headphones on and I'd listen to one of his records. Those are probably my earliest memories of music and listening to it, definitely.
And were they essentially collectors, or they weren't sort of DJs or anything like that?
No, nothing like that at all. None of them played music. They weren't collectors as such. My dad had a vinyl collection.
Right.
Then back in those days, that's largely what it was. My mum had a few cassettes and bits and pieces, but yeah, I wouldn't say either were collectors or either were musical people as such. Just, I guess they were lovers of music in their own right, and it was often on in the house. I guess when you've only got 4 channels, as it was at the time, more of a prominent part of people's lives.
And I mean, life was very different. But obviously, youngsters now probably can't appreciate that there was TV which only had initially 3 channels. I mean, I remember Channel 4 coming on, and then obviously Channel 5, and then obviously getting to where we've got. But yeah, like you say, music was pretty much the only other thing you could consume, and you could consume it whenever you wanted, because obviously the TV channels, again, you didn't have them on repeat. You had to watch it then. So you had something that you could actually control a little bit more. So that's interesting. And it's great, the mix that you've talked about, because you talked about your dad's rock and then your mum's sort of soul and reggae, I think. Yeah. I mean, it's a great mix. Gonna say hello to a couple of people. We've obviously got Welsh Swanee in the house, and we've also got your good lady, Lady Fryer.
Yeah, that is my good lady wife.
Yeah, who I think I met briefly. I think I met you both briefly when we went down to the Coco gig.
That's it. And what a gig that was as well.
Well, we are gonna pause there in your life story, because I'm very lucky to have people on my show who've been to that gig, and for me it was just like, wow. How did you get to know about that gig, and what did you think of it?
I'm trying to think if it either just come up on my Instagram because I'd followed the venue, or if it was one that Sucker Timmy had pinged me about and basically sort of said, "Are we going?"
Right.
But yeah, either way, as soon as it was kind of on the radar, it's like, was it the tickets were something like 15 quid or something? Not a lot, really. It's just like,
it wasn't.
Why would you not go to that?
Yeah.
So and what a gig. Loads of highlights. The Coco bit, obviously, that set was outstanding.
Yeah.
But for me, the memory that I will take away from that is actually watching a load of other DJs that I know,
yeah,
who I look to and go, "Well, you're mustard," and they're all just looking at him like jaw on the floor.
Yeah.
So when I'm looking at people I kind of look up to and aspire to, and they're looking at this, you're like, "Wow, yeah, amazing gig." So I went to that.
And like you say, it's just amazing, yeah. Because I think there's one point where so Coco was there. He was sort of, it was a bit weird, wasn't it? He was almost DJing in sort of like a little cocktail bar in the center of the thing. And so I'm saying there, Matt Baylor's next to me, and then Mr. Thing. And Mr. Thing has obviously played a killer set already.
And he was unbelievable as well.
Yeah, he was amazing. He always is. And then obviously Jim Sharp. And Coco's doing something, and I just was like, whoa! And I looked around, and both of them were both doing exactly the same thing, like you say, like, whoa, how the F has he fucking done that? You know, and that, so it was pretty amazing. It was pretty good. I think he's playing at We Out Here, so I think if anyone's going to that, then they should definitely make sure they go and check him out.
They should,
they should. It was amazing. Right, let's get back to the sort of life story bit. So you're listening to music from your mum and your dad. Does there come a point where you start buying records?
Yeah, but not because I collected them or anything like that. I can remember the first song that I bought. I'm trying to think if it was on vinyl or if it was on cassette. I think it was on 45, actually. So that's quite apt. And it was incredibly embarrassing. It was the Bee Gees' You Win Again.
Right, okay, that is a little bit embarrassing.
Yeah,
I guess back then,
I thought about this, I would have come up with something cool and just lied.
Sam saying you buy no records at all, just don't tell a lady friar.
Yeah, that's it. I don't buy anything at all. No vinyl.
And here we go. The B-side to You Win Again is Ace. So he's making us buy it just to listen to what the B-side is. It might be in a crate down there somewhere.
Spin it on one of his streams soon.
Yeah, he will. Okay, so Bee Gees is your first record. What did you buy after that?
I was young, but then I guess the first memories of, I guess, developing my own musical tastes, away from the influences from my mum and dad, as I said. I was born in 1980, so 90s was really where that started to form. Hip hop, right? So hip hop for sure was a big part of growing up. And then sort of mid to late 90s, then certainly dance music started to enter into my influences, and then Britpop as well, things like Oasis, of course, at that age, you can't pass life by without those being a big part of your life and stuff as well.
So are you still, obviously your dad used to be into rock, so were you quite into rock? Because I sort of was a little bit, but not huge, like Nirvana, like a little bit of Oasis, but maybe their early stuff, more sort of Blur, Pulp, is what was my indie side, but it was still always very electronic and sort of hip hop based for me. Was yours a lot more rock based, do you think?
Probably as a kid, yeah. And if anything, actually, probably my favorite band as a kid was Guns N' Roses, who I saw at Hyde Park for the first time just the other day.
Amazing.
And look, Axl's not Axl of his former days, shall we say? But look, for me, watching them, and as I said, they were my favorite band growing up, so that was still a bit of a special moment. So definitely a lot of rock. The last concert that I booked tickets for was to see the Foo Fighters for next year. That will be the 5th or 6th time I've seen them. So yeah, definitely. but probably over the last 4 years, 3-4 years in particular, since I've been doing a lot of well, the DJing, and we'll come on to that, I guess, in a bit, and
yeah,
COVID and Twitch and stuff like that, which again we'll come on to. I very rarely listen to it anymore. I've done the Rock and Raid, Ragnar's Raid Train twice, right, and I've loved it because it's enabled me to kind of dip back into that world, and which I haven't listened to for a long, long time. In truth,
yeah. Well, it's one of those things that, and I mean, yeah, we've talked a little bit about Twitch now. I love doing 45 Raiders with Sam first last Monday of each month, and we come up with a theme, and you have to go digging to find. And it's amazing the records you find when you actually have to sort of go digging. So when you go looking for these rock records, you must suddenly remember, wow, there's that great record or this great record. And then that becomes a lot of fun to put together that sort of set, which you might not otherwise have put together.
Oh, massively so. I mean, we were talking before we went on air. That sounds weird. We were talking about, you know, how you can go down a YouTube rabbit hole. I've done it before a number of times, doing it with Spotify. And just enable me to go and just click on a song or an artist and then go on to, obviously it's all algorithm based, but you know, then it will list a load of artists that potentially are relatable, and then just start going down that rabbit hole. And I've discovered a load of music that way. But it's that essence of digging, I guess, again.
Yeah. It's a lot of things. It's interesting there because obviously you talk about algorithms, and obviously if you are on one of these platforms, it seems to be the algorithm is pointing you in a great direction. I think for me, one of the things I love about Twitch is because there's the human element. You don't know what, and because you get lots of eclectic sets, you don't know what they're going to play next. And then the other thing is you don't know where they're going to raid you to unless it's part of a raid event. So it's great that you can go down all these rabbit holes and listen to music you haven't heard of before, but that you can listen to DJs playing it rather than it being sort of recommended by an algorithm or a computer.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And obviously we've got people like Sam in the chat here. He's great for tuning into some of his streams where, you know, it could be all sorts of things, and often is. And the amount of tunes that I've heard through his stream, you know, again, it's that you can almost rely on certain people where you go, I'm definitely going to hear something new from this person. I'm going to follow them. So yeah, I think it's brilliant, right? It's new ways of discovering music. That can only be a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
I find that with a lot of DJs. I think we're so privileged that we can just switch on Twitch and listen to all these amazing DJs from all around the world, and just hear this music that you might not otherwise hear. You know, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, and arguably even more so in some of the communities that we kind of knock about in, so to speak, because obviously then you've got all of the edits, the remixes, and etc. So it almost explodes even further again. There's almost even more music to find that you only listen to things like Spotify. You probably would never hear a lot of the music that we hear on Twitch because of those edits, etc.
Yeah. And Sam's saying Sweet Tooth's a fave of his to find new tunes.
I can't believe there's any music out there that Sam doesn't already know.
Yeah. There's the odd one. I had a challenge, and I'm like, I'm going to get one for 45 Day and find a record that I'm sure he hasn't got. And I managed to get it. And it was a French version of Inspector Gadget theme, which he didn't have. Yeah. Yeah, that'd be brilliant. Sam's got, I've got this like one from Bulgaria, an Inspector Gadget version. But yeah, okay. Let's go back to the DJing then. How did you first get into DJing? And why as well? Why did you get into it?
So I'm fairly new, to be honest, into the whole world of DJing, despite being 43 and definitely being somebody who loves his music. It took me a long time to kind of dip my toe into it. And considering some of the people that have been in and around my life, so my brother-in-law, he's a DJ. So when I first got together with my wife, I've probably known him for the best part of 15 years, something like that. And he's been DJing for all of those years that I've known him. And I can remember having a house party years ago, and he brought around his turntables and his vinyl. and he's like, have a go. And then I was awful. I was like, I'm not doing this. And I just never picked it up. And then I can remember years down the line, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law were living in Singapore at the time. We've gone over to visit, and he's got this tiny little controller. Right. And then suddenly he's playing a few tunes and stuff with that. And the fact that it was kind of something kind of small that you can just pack away, it was really easy.
Yeah.
That kind of appealed to me. And then I went to, so there's a company in Newbury, DJ Kit. Right. And they put on some, essentially it's a trade exhibition type thing. Yeah, just their stuff. Went along to it, and I ended up buying one of these tiny little controllers, like a DJ 200 or something. Couple of £100, brought it home. The wife went nuts. Right. She's like, "What's this?" I was like, "It's for the kids. We can get them into music." She saw through that instantly. But so that was kind of my first entry into the world of DJing. So that was probably, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, something like that. And it would occasionally come out house parties or whatever, and would make a complete hash and bodge job of it all. And then when I started to take it more seriously and focus on it, for want of a better term, was probably at the beginning of COVID, to be honest. So
is it because COVID happened, or had you been doing just before as well?
So I'd been DJing out, and I bought this controller for a year or two before COVID.
Right. Okay.
But as I said, it wasn't permanently set up. It would occasionally come out, and then it would go away. So I would never really spend enough time practicing on it. Then COVID come along, and then so a good friend of mine, Sucker Timmy, and we'll talk about him a little bit more, I guess, later on as well.
Yeah.
He got back into DJing, albeit he'd done it sort of 20 years previously, etc. as well, and picked it all back up. And then he did this stream on this platform called Twitch. And then I watched him, and I was
pause you there for a second. At that point, what did you know about Twitch?
Nothing. Never heard of it.
You'd never even heard of it. So you hadn't even heard of it, that it was about gamers. Just absolutely nothing. Okay.
Nothing, all right. Well, that's nothing at all about it.
Interesting. Okay. So he said he's DJing on there.
So yeah. And to be honest, had it not been for Timmy, I probably would have completely passed me by. So he basically pings around the link. I'm streaming on this. Watched him. I was like, this is wicked. Right. I was like, I'm going to do that. And then that will force me to play more often. So I did. There's probably going to be a little bit of a running theme here about me being reasonably impulsive at times.
I think we all are.
Yes, as well.
You're saying that to record collectors or people who just are quite unimpulsive, just buy records, you know?
Yeah, fair point, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Know your tribe, right? Yeah. So I started doing it more regularly. I upgraded to a DDJ 1000. I was still on the sort of the record box side of things. And then the whole kind of vinyl and scratching was stuff that I thought I want to try and get more into this side of things a bit as well. So I was like, well, I need to get rid of this unit. I need something different. And by this time, I'm constantly scheming and working away on the wife to constantly let me do these upgrades. So then I upgraded to the Rain 1. That's actually behind me.
Yeah.
It's in dust. I've upgraded since then again as well.
Right.
So now I've got 1210s and NS11. So yeah,
well, I love the story, how it started from. I thought I'd just get something simple like this little controller that you can just bring out and pack away, and then you've gone full on. Let's make it as complicated as possible to play music anyway, by having to take turntables and a decent mixer and a decent sound system, as opposed to these youngsters who just turn up and plug their controller
in. Yeah. So.
And I tell you what the thing is, though, it's for us, it means a lot that we're doing it on vinyl, but for 99% of the people out there listening to stuff, certainly in pubs and clubs and stuff like that, they don't care, really, do they? They don't care what you play on.
No, that is the reality of it. There'll be some, and certainly when you go talk back to Coco, that sort of gig, yes, there was definitely a load of people who were, I guess, vinyl noises or whatever there, but there was definitely a large portion of those people who weren't necessarily there for the vinyl, so to speak.
No.
But outside is something like that where it's very kind of close and intimate, like you said, a bit like that sort of bar.
Yeah.
The vast majority of people, they're either not even looking and paying attention to the DJ and they don't care. They just want to hear the tunes.
I mean, this was what was interesting about Coco, because there was obviously like us sort of 45s heads and whatever, a sort of one age bracket. And then there was probably quite a lot of early to mid 20s.
Yeah.
And they were really enjoying it, which I thought was brilliant. But then they were sort of standing and watching him. And because of the physicality of what he was doing, it looked probably very different to what they're used to, and maybe just a DJ behind a laptop and pressing buttons or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he brings to it. And if anyone's going to properly promote what we do as 45s DJs or vinyl DJs or whatever, it is him, because he can show, look what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. But yeah, no, it was a good kind of mix. And yeah, different kind of age demographics and all that stuff. So
yeah. So you found Twitch.
Yes.
You start on Twitch. Do you remember your first stream? Do you remember what you did?
Not overly. I think I'd wrestled with OBS and trying to build all of that stuff first of all.
Yeah.
And that was a minefield in its own right. I mean, now it makes complete logical sense to me, building up your layers and doing all of those things, etc. But at the time, so I don't know what I'm bloody doing with this.
It's amazing what we've learned, isn't it? Because obviously they say you can't teach old dogs new tricks, but we've all learned to become like broadcasters, OBS, webcams, mixers, audio cards, stream element, all emotes, all this sort of stuff. It's
all a massive learning curve, right?
Yeah.
And then not only then, especially me being sort of very much in the infancy of my journey, but then throw in the mix of, I've got to keep up with the chat and speak to people at the same time.
Yeah.
So I don't like making life easy for myself, clearly.
Exactly. We do make it hard for ourselves, but it's achieving that. And for me, it's seeing, we did a parent and kids stream with the Global Funk Fam. It's seeing like my daughter and some of the other kids getting into it as well. Not just playing vinyl, but the whole sort of community aspect of Twitch and saying hello to people. My daughter's like, well, she's in bed tonight, but she's now a moderator on my channel. So she sits there sort of moderating. Generally, you're playing like stream avatars, that sort of Pokemon game at the bottom. But it's great that we can share this with our families and also other people. And the other thing is, everyone's willing to help. Like you're saying, it takes a while to set everything up. People have helped me, I help other people, and I love the whole sharing and let's get everyone to a place where they can stream and do what they want on their own channel, because it's such a great means of expression.
Yeah, it is. It doesn't feel like it's a competition.
Yeah,
it's not about being number one. It's about everyone being better. And if that was a bit of help with Streamlabs or OBS or whatever, people were more than happy to do so. And just going back to the bit about the kids and stuff as well. So my two, I've got two boys, 14 and 11, and neither are particularly interested in the kind of the DJ side. But my 11-year-old, he loves his golden era 90s hip hop as well. Amazing. And he actually collects vinyl for that as well.
Wicked.
And probably one of my favorite streams I've done. It was on Monday, part of the Monday gang that I normally do with Sucker Timmy and B-sides. I got him up on the decks with me. I got him to bring down his record collection, and I was like, right, you're picking the tracks, and we'll just play a load of your tracks. So there was no mixing really. It was like echo out, new track in, but it was all his music. And I love doing that with him. It's brilliant.
It's a lot of fun. Although Welsh Swanee is saying, that's odd. I heard your son likes garage.
I've got two sons. The eldest probably likes more garage. The youngest is still very much into his hip hop.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, it's so great because, I mean, for me, someone's going to have these records at some point, so I've got to give her the passion. But I love that she's enjoying it, and that we can share it all. It's been brilliant. So tell us a little bit about your Twitch journey. Then, obviously, you've started, you've got everything set up. You know, are you doing pop-ups initially? Are you jumping on raid trains? How does it sort of progress?
It was initially so part of my rationale that I had formed in my own head as justification for needing to upgrade my unit and doing this thing on Twitch was the consistency. So initially it was, well, I'll play Friday nights. Whilst I've got a very broad music taste, I was largely playing house music.
Right.
And still play a lot of house and still love playing house. So I was doing that, and then was doing that a little bit with my brother-in-law that I mentioned earlier on. I got him onto Twitch, and then we were doing like a little raid train between us. And it started off as just kind of friends, and then obviously Twitch being what it is, you get a few extra people that kind of come onto it, and then going in a lot of, say, streams that Timmy was on. Then you start to recognize faces, names, and you start to build up a bit of a community with that. And then getting to know people like Sam, or at least from my point of view, I kind of knew him. Obviously, I'm just another name in his chat until then you actually go to an event. And I remember going to, is one of the Next Men events in Bristol. Lost Horizon, I think it was. And that was the first time I'd met a load of people from Twitch. And still probably one of the most surreal days I've ever had. Because I'm not famous. I was just some fat middle-aged man doing some stuff on Twitch just simply so that he could have a bit of consistency in his practice, essentially. And then suddenly I've got people going, hey, you're Nice Guy Fryer. And I'm like, who the bloody hell are you? How do you know my name? And they're like, I've seen you on Twitch. I'm like, oh yeah, of course.
Because that's the thing, isn't it? Because obviously we are in front of a camera and people can see us and we see them. So we've got to know all these streamers as if they're in our sort of worlds. You know, well, they are in our worlds, but you know what I mean? Like as if they're in person, because it's just on a video. And so when you do then meet them, it is a bit bonkers. You know, I know when we first did like a 45s meetup, I think in March last year up at King's Cross, and we had like Jim Sharp was there, Matt Baylor, Sam, a lot of people again I'd only met for the very first time, and it was just like we were old mates.
Yeah,
and we still are. That's the best bit about it, isn't it?
It's a really weird, bizarre way of forming friendships in some ways, where somebody gets to watch you and get to know you. You know them a little bit through some chat. And then suddenly by the time you do actually meet them, you're not starting at square one. So you instantly feel like you know that person more. And weird, really weird.
It is weird, isn't it? It's like I don't know, it's like the world's biggest non-dating app. I don't know.
Yeah.
I suppose, because like, you know, you watch each other as DJs and then you watch other people, but it is very weird, but it's very cool. You know, it's been a very good thing.
Massively so, massively. So obviously sort of playing a little bit more regularly with the Twitch and then starting to get to know people, and then dare I say maybe getting a little bit better. Then suddenly I found myself being kind of invited on sort of certain raid trains, etc. And I make no bones about it. If it wasn't for Timmy, A, I wouldn't have gone on Twitch in the first place. But B, I've absolutely hung off of some of his coattails where I can. I've got on raid trains that I had no right to be part of. I've got to know people that he knows because he's good. And then I've kind of, hi. So look, I'm fully aware of a lot of that. And I'm all right with it. But that's kind of
that again is right. I'm going to say hello to a few people because there's quite a few people now in the chat. But we'll come back to that. But I think that is as well part of what we're saying about sharing, you know, raiding and helping people up. Right, we've got a few people to say hello to. Welsh 20 to say hello to Lady Fry. We have Massa 2020, Machine Girthy. We have got DJ Candyman. He's been making some brilliant comments in the chat. DJ Leroy, T2 Funk. We have got Double P. B-Side UK has just come in. Welcome in. And I think one more. Lindsay Loves House. Hello, welcome in, everyone. But again, it's part of that helping each other. We've helped each other get onto streaming. We've helped each other get the right setup. We've helped each other get that. Why wouldn't we help each other and say, book this guy? You know, it's all about people trusting you or trusting someone, you know, more famous, not is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? Someone bigger on Twitch, let's put it that way. Trusting them that you're going to do what you're going to do, which is going to be cool. But what I love is it doesn't matter what you do. The fact that you're part of this and you're part of a party makes you want to play really good music, but music you really enjoy. And that's what comes across, I think, the passion.
Yeah, I think so. I hope so. I mean, I guess I'm still here. So to some extent, must be doing something right. I mean, I say that like I'm remotely famous and I have hundreds of people in my streams. That's obviously not remotely the case. But you know, and certainly I'll be honest, there's been moments within that journey where, and I'm sure lots of people have maybe had some of this as well, where maybe you get a little bit hung up on some of the numbers at times. I certainly did for a little while. And then, you know, do a stream where the numbers are rubbish. And it's like, right, I'm not doing this anymore. The numbers are rubbish. There's no point. Other people are now streaming. And then I just had to kind of dial it back a little bit and go, well, why did I do this in the first place? It was essentially to ensure I basically played a load of music that I loved. And then as soon as I kind of made that, join those dots back up again, I had the viewer counter at one point on my stream. I got rid of that. And now I don't think I've ever looked at numbers ever again.
Yeah. And it's something that Double P and other people have struggled with as well. You know, he said he turned the numbers off. It doesn't matter. I think it's when you realize, and I think I realized this a little while ago, that being able to just play music that you enjoy, whilst there is people who are your friends in the chat, is probably the greatest sort of free therapy you can have. You know, music, we talk a lot about music therapy, about how important music is. But the fact that I can like, right, if I'm having a shit day or whatever, I can think, right, I'm not on a raid train, I haven't got a show, I'm literally just going to do a pop-up, play some music that I really enjoy because I know that's going to get me in a good spirit. And then people come in, and it doesn't matter if it's 1, 2, 10, 20, whatever it is. The fact that anyone turns up makes you feel good because then you're having a conversation, you play music you love, and it is a form of therapy, I think. Do you find that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's that almost escape from reality. Somebody should probably put that into a song lyric.
Yeah.
But being present as well, and then start maybe getting a little bit hippie with it all. But I definitely have felt that. And again, for me, despite the fact that I'm not somebody who looks particularly athletic, I used to play rugby as a kid and then a young man, and played it right the way to about 35 or so. Body's knackered as a result now, but then after that, I was doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for a while. So there's probably something else about me. I clearly like being hurt and hurting people, but that probably says more about me. But those were my escapes in the past.
Yeah.
And certainly in those kind of, let's call them combat sports, for want of a better term, if you're not kind of switched on in the moment, you're going to get hurt. So it almost forces you to have that escape from reality, to focus on the present. And when all of those things stopped, I didn't have anything where I could just take myself away for a couple of hours, forget everything else, and just focus on that present. And music has or DJing rather, has certainly kind of become that for me in a lot of cases. Like you said, you can have a shit week, shit day, and then it's like, right, I'm going to go and stream. And I've done that before where I've had a shit day, I'm just going to go and do a pop-up and just clear my head and just not think about it for an hour or two. And they're often some of the best streams.
Definitely. And you don't know who's going to turn up for those. The people who do turn up take it in directions that you weren't expecting, or say, you know, whatever. It's therapy, but it's also like support, isn't it? That's the other thing. And yeah, like you say, you can just switch it on whenever you want. It can go the other way though. Welsh Swan is saying that some gaming streamers stream for 10 hours or more, just waiting for raids and drinking Monster. That's a dark spiral. That, I mean, obviously we're not gamers, and I don't stream for 10 hours, and I can't imagine myself doing that. But I can get there's probably a similar thing sometimes with DJs where they're on like all the time, like 3 hours, 6. I know I'm on quite a bit, but it tends to be like an hour or whatever. But again, that's something that people can watch for, and just make sure, because there might be something going on
there. Maybe, and I don't know. I think when you factor in, there's obviously a large portion of people on Twitch where that's essentially their job now. Whether it's gaming or whether it's DJing, they almost have to be on there now, in order to maintain or to continue building what they've done, in order to ensure that they've got the revenues coming in. So, look, I think I agree with Swanee that it's a dark spiral, especially if you sort of sat there in the dark drinking Monster waiting. To a certain extent, I can almost understand why they're in that position, because if they get that raid, there's probably a load of income and revenue that comes with it. And if you've not had that, maybe, I don't know. Look, I mean, again, I don't particularly count bits and subs and all of that. But I'm sure there's probably some out there where if they've not had however many subs that day, might be right, I'm staying on until I do. I don't know. Don't know.
Yeah, I've heard a story. I'm not going to name any names of a certain streamer who was getting annoyed because they didn't quite get to like past level 2, and that again can be quite dangerous, I think, because we are lucky that anyone gives money, donates, subs. You know, I've recently put on a charity thing for, we'll get to charity in a minute with your event, but we as part of the 45 Kids support Jesse's Fund, which is a music therapy charity here in the UK, helps children communicating through music and in hospice and that. And I put it on, you know, it's a button instead of where you subscribe, and then it's already raised like 90 quid, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, that's amazing, you know, what's achieved. But we are lucky if people do subscribe, if people do give bits, because it's just pure generosity of people, isn't it? You know, appreciating you, showing you some love in the only way they can, over and above emotes and stuff, by saying, you know, here's a donation or here's a whatever. So, you know, every time anyone subs or anything, you know, we've got to be grateful, haven't we?
Oh, massively so. And I guess for me, where I've come into this in a slightly different position than a lot of people, i.e., it was essentially my practice to start off with. You know, it took me a long time before I was even comfortable with anybody putting the letters D and J in any form of reference about me. So when anybody gave me bits or subs, it just blew my mind. It's like, hang on, you're giving me money.
Yeah,
that's incredibly, probably stupid, but incredibly kind, and I'm incredibly grateful. It still blows my mind. People want to put their hand in their pocket, especially in today's day and age, right? You know, look,
that's the thing, isn't it? We're all in difficult times, and you know, cost of living and all the rest of it, and I'm sure it's happening across the world. But the fact that people still are prepared, you know, it really means a lot. And I think, you know, speaking on behalf of most streamers, you know, anything like that just means so much. And it keeps us wanting to come back, not for the money, but wanting to say, yeah, you've put your trust in me and subscribed this month, I'm going to give you some good streams this month. You know, there's almost that element of it as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, crazy old thing.
It's bonkers. And the good thing I found that, you know, apart from talking about that one DJ I just mentioned, but there doesn't appear to be a lot of ego as well. And like you say, when you meet people, I think it's because Twitch was the great leveler, wasn't it? You know, when we all started, obviously you had your professional DJs, famous DJs, and then, you know, the rest of us. It sort of leveled us all out. Hence why, like you say, we can be on raid trains or whatever with some quite big names.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, I think so. Timmy again. God, it turns out I'm being quite nice to Timmy today. That's you best not hear about this. You're going to have to edit this all out.
Edit this out, yeah.
So my birthday happens to be the same day as his brother's birthday. So again, I've absolutely benefited on the back of something else, really.
Right.
But he organised, and this was when sort of fairly early days. Sundays was a really good day on Twitch. You had people like X-Ray Ted going into Shaq Loves You, into and Timmy used to do a little bit of Sunday thing. I used to then do Sunday mornings before him. He would then raid X-Ray Ted into blah, blah, blah. So he basically organised this kind of birthday raid train with me and Lee on that. And in fact, I've got a little poster down here that they got made up for it.
Yep.
And that's something that, again, I'll cherish, right? Because I've got my name on a poster with the next men, Shaka Loves You, Trades Heads. I've got no right to be on there, even more so at this time, because I'd only been on Twitch, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months at most. So, but yeah, again, crazy, but really kind of supportive.
It's amazing what we've achieved, really. You know, first getting onto Twitch, but then, like you say, getting onto these events that they're very difficult to have in the real world, those sort of events. But a lot of us might necessarily not be on any of those events. If Twitch hadn't happened and if we hadn't sort of all ended up online and all of that. So it's been amazing to bring DJs together and obviously bring DJs up and go from there. Right. You've got an event coming up next weekend. So it's on Friday. Called Suckerfest. I'm going to put up the flyer. We'll talk a little bit about who's playing and all the rest of it, and then we'll talk about the why and why you're doing it, and obviously what you're promoting. Here we go. Now, there's quite a few people in the chat, I think, who are on this lineup, so it's good to see them. So Suckerfest 2023. Tell us about it.
So I'll try and park all of the why for the moment, but ultimately it's a small festival raising funds for charity, for Calm, putting there good people, good music, good times, and fundamentally that's really what it is. By design, it was only supposed to be a small event. You know, who knows what it may be at any point in the future if it continues, but it was really just designed to be a small festival where, again, we were talking a little bit before we went online about finding your tribe or know your tribe or whatever, and I guess to a certain extent it's about a small event with your tribe, some of which are my tribe from old, some of which are my tribe of new. That's all been from the world of Twitch, which, again, talking as a segue from what we were just talking about, is incredibly weird but beautiful at the same time. That a load of people that a couple of years ago I had no idea who they were. And now suddenly they're paying money to come to something I'm organising and playing at. And that other people are prepared to come along and be part of that and play at it as well. But ultimately, kind of just going back to the thing itself, that we're going to have a bar there. There's a caterer there. We've got a really cool kind of tent. It's a big sort of inflatable dome. It basically looks like a massive igloo.
Nice.
So when we were talking
about
the weather earlier on, I'm actually quite pleased there's not a heat wave, because I suspect it would have been a bit of a sauna in there. So actually, the way the weather is right now, our little rave igloo, as it's been nicknamed, is probably the best thing for us.
Well, we've done. We used to do like one-day country pub sort of rave events. Well, not a rave event, but a one-day festival with my crew, Jellyfunk All Stars, with Toby and Adrian. And the guy who had that bar had an inflatable pub.
I've seen it.
They're really cool. So
a
couple where it was just one venue at the top, and then we did a bigger one where we ended up having Sticky Buds and J-Pod, because I happened to be in town in the area for Shindig, and so we had the bar at the top and then this inflatable thing, and like it's so much fun DJing and being inside an inflatable, because again it takes you back to sort of childhood, doesn't it, and like bouncy castles and things like that.
I think it's going to be cool. I mean, I've never seen it. Again, here's me about my impulsiveness. I just booked it because I thought it looked cool. So it might be a load of shit in the end, and that'd be really disappointing. But
we'll find out on the after show.
From the pictures I've seen, it does look wicked, and I think even more so at night when it gets dark and then it's kind of lit up a little bit as well. I think that's when it will kind of really come into its own. That's the plan, anyway.
Yeah, definitely. So that's the stage. So that's DJs. I think you said you got some caterers, obviously a bar, and then DJ wise. Then so let's go through the lineup.
Yeah, so headlining on the Friday, we've got Sam Tweaks. Headlining on the Saturday, we've got Suckerside. So there's only music on the Friday, Saturday, so it's not like it's a 3-day festival. Yep. The Friday, broadly speaking, is more house music orientated. So yep. I mentioned my brother-in-law a couple of times on this this chat. That's the Sun Chasers. So as mentioned, legitimate DJ, proper DJ, not like me, some pretend phony. He's just not long come back from a period of time where he's been living in the Maldives for a couple of months. Tough gig. He got it last year, and they asked him back this year, and he's going back out again in a couple of weeks. Right. That's in between playing things like Standing Calling at the weekend. He's played with the likes of Louis Vega in the past, so he's properly legit.
That's good though. It's good that he can combine all of these DJs.
Yeah, look, and he's a lovely guy. And again, hopefully he won't hear this because all I do is take the piss out of him. So if he hears me being nice, he'll think there's something wrong. So we've got him, then there's me, then there's Sam. So we're getting Sam to kind of go back to his roots and kind of the reasons why he became a DJ in the first place. So we'll get him playing some kind of dance anthems, some classics.
In a dance 45 set. Yeah.
We'll see what we can get him to play.
He does good sets like that. Yeah, he did one at Glastonbury. We did a rave session, I think, for a couple of hours. And yeah. You're in for a treat.
Yeah, so that should be really good. And then the Saturday, it's a little bit more of a mixed bag. I guess the Saturday is probably a little bit more familiar to some of the Global Funk Fam community. So we've got on there, we've got Ragnar, we've got Shake the Booty, we've got Candyman, Maria Terme. Then they're going into Cult 45, which is more of the 45 world. You'll know those guys.
Yeah.
Great guys. Yeah, and his partner in crime, Cursor. And then we've got Call Me Dave and Guten Morgen doing a back-to-back festival, kind of back-to-back set. So that'll be fun and probably quite eclectic at times. And then into our headliners, Suckerside, who have promised a lot of great things. So we shall see. So yeah, I think there's going to be a few exclusive edits and stuff. I say exclusive. They probably played them all at Leopoldo over the weekends, but you know, outside of that, we're going to be the world exclusive.
I mean, yeah, that's a great lineup, and it's not that far from me. It's just annoying in a way because I've got my own event happening this weekend, which is a little bit more chilled, but along the same sort of lines. I've just hired a campsite just outside Eastbourne, and we've got like about 25 odd pitches. And I've just invited friends who I know on Twitch, and then we've got the 45 kids playing. So we've got like Olive D, who's Funky Flavor's daughter, and then we've got Polyphonics, who's Paul Salt's daughter. And it's great being able to say to them, come down, come and camp out, let's hang out. Your kids can meet my daughter and, you know, family thing. Because yours is quite family friendly as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is kind of where it all kind of stemmed from, actually. So, again, I've referenced Timmy a number of times in this. So at the start of COVID, as loads of people were, they had holidays cancelled and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So Timmy was due to be going on holiday for his birthday. They found out a couple of weeks beforehand that it got cancelled. So I basically organised a surprise barbecue around my house. He only lives 5 minutes around the corner.
Yeah.
I invited his brother up on the sly. I invited B-Side up on the sly. I'd never met either of them before then. I thought we'll do it as a little bit of a festival theme. So I put a event shelter up in the garden. I built like a little sign for the front, and I called it Suckerfest because of Timmy. Got some silly little wristbands made and surprised him. And we had a wicked afternoon. We did it again the next year and then invited some other people, the likes of Call Me Dave, Guten Morgen, a few other people come along to it. And then as probably a lot of my best ideas, or I think best ideas at least, happen, it's normally when I'm drunk. So whilst being drunk and playing music probably too loud, too late into the night, and I'm going to piss the neighbours off, it was, we should do this bigger and we should do it in a field, and in that way we don't need to worry about the neighbours. So I did. And that was essentially where it was born from, a drunk conversation about how we can have essentially what was a glorified garden party with a bit of a festival theme and do it on a large scale. And that was it.
Yeah, I'm just going to say hello to a couple of people. We've got a Scotty Boy and there's Kev Clark I hadn't said hello to. Yeah, hello to both those. Kev was at the Coco gig as well. But like you say, it's these small ideas then suddenly become bigger. We'll talk about where you could see it going further down the line. And we've already had a little conversation, maybe in the future do some sort of collab. But I think what's also important is the why. You know, why are you doing it? We've talked a lot about mental health on my shows, and you're supporting Calm, Campaign Against Living Miserably, as we have. So what is the why, and why are you doing that?
Yeah, so the reason why I wanted to take this idea and then essentially spin it into a charity event ultimately, and particularly mental health, was because my best mate, he was best man at my wedding, I was best man at his wedding. He took his own life last year.
Sorry.
Completely out of the blue as far as I was concerned.
Right.
Despite the fact that I'm even now referring to him still as my best mate. Probably like a lot of guys, despite being best mates, you might not speak to him for weeks, months. And that's kind of where our relationship was sort of at the time. So I'd seen him around a mate's house a couple of months prior, and he was on top form. He was on such good form. And then literally 2-3 months later, I got a phone. Literally, I was driving my youngest son to his football cup final that he was playing in. And then I got a phone call from my mate, and he just kind of spat it out. So it's watching somebody go. I say watching. I didn't watch as such, but seeing somebody who was clearly on such top form spiral so far, so quickly. You know, and speaking to his wife and his mum and some other people that were around him when he was spiraling. For him to have felt that taking his own life was the only way out and the best way out is we've all had dark moments. I'd be lying if I said I haven't. I've been on antidepressants a couple of times in the past. In retrospect, when you look at people's lives, I sit there in kind of middle England to a certain extent as a white middle-aged man. I've got nothing to be sorry for, whatever, right? You know, I live largely a pretty privileged life in comparison to a lot of people. But that doesn't matter, because actually it's about your own truth and your own normal. And irrespective of where you might sit in society or any of that nonsense, people can get low. And as I said, my best mate, he went low. And as I said, to the point where he felt that was the only way out. So kind of trying to move away from the X Factor sob story too much. You know, for me, I was unable to do anything for him. I wasn't aware he was going through these things. And I'll never be able to change that. But potentially, I can help a little bit in some tiny little way by bringing some people together who, within that group of people that are coming, I know for a fact there's some within there that have had their own struggles and challenges and battles. So if we can help bring people together a little bit, and we can, through that shared passion of music, can raise a little bit of money, and that money potentially helps somebody. And if it stops just one person from feeling that's the only way out, then it's been a good thing to do, right?
Yeah. And we talk about this a lot. You know, the reason I started doing these talk shows is because Double P opened up to me and talked to me about his depression. And then every time we've done it, it's that. And it's exactly that. If one person listens to what we're doing, if one person comes to that event who might be feeling a bit down, and they come to that event and they speak to people and they feel part of a tribe. It's amazing what can be done. And like you say, if you can just help one person, but also talking about it, you know, the more we talk about it, you know, I don't know if your friend, I mean, had your friend, you said it came completely out of the blue. Had he ever spoken about it? Had he ever mentioned it to like other people?
No. And it wasn't until that happened that a load of my mates, again, that close group of mates, we kind of got together and we talked in a way that we'd never talked before. You know, I mean, I all I do is take the piss out of people. I mean, that's largely how I show affection, weirdly. But certainly with my mates, if I'm horrible to you, it normally means actually I like you. But
yeah.
But all we would do is just take the piss out of each other. We'd never ever spoken at any form of kind of emotional level or talked about feelings. Certainly had never dreamt of talking to my mates about, you know, I feel a bit sad at the moment. And is that okay? Never done it until this happens. And then we were able to open up and share things with each other that we'd never done. And weirdly, every single one of us had all been on antidepressants at some point and had never told anybody else within that group.
Wow. It's
and
almost like a lot of it is obviously keeping it secret, isn't it?
And it
takes a lot of effort to keep something secret. And also I guess there's an admittance, you know, can you admit to yourself that you've got to a point where you accept that you're depressed and then accept that you're going to take antidepressants, but there's still this sort of guilt that, oh, well, I'm not going to tell anyone that I'm doing this because I'm this man and I've got to keep things going, isn't it?
I was about to say, look, mental health is a problem, full stop. And by no means, when we're having this conversation, am I trying to diminish any woman's mental health issues or whatever. Shit, they've got a whole world of stuff to deal with that us
to
worry about, right?
They've got so much more, I think, than we have.
Image and all of that, size, all sorts of things. Look, here I'm as a fat man whose hair's starting to thin and bald. You know, I'm like, I don't give a shit. I am what I am type thing. But that toxic masculinity around that, like you said, it's almost that admitting it. And the moment you admit it, there's almost this perceived notion of weakness. And that's the thing that we absolutely need to tear down because it's bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, I think the amazing thing for me is obviously Double P reached out to me and got talking, and then we've done this now. And we've got to the point where our friendship is that if he's having a bad day, I can usually tell by maybe he's in a stream and I can tell he's not that, or he just sends me a message saying, oh, not been a good day. And I'm like, right, what's going on? And I love that he can just do that. And he knows that I'm there. I'm going to listen to what he says, you know, not necessarily advise or whatever, but, you know, just be there, listen to him and try and, you know, say, you know, like he's come on before and said, oh, you know, how was that stream? I felt a bit off. And I was like, no, it was great. It was really good. You know, do this. And it's like, oh, okay, thanks. And it's just great that we've got that sort of relationship. And I'm hoping that the more we do this, the more we can open up. And it sounds like you and your friends have obviously talking now in a way that you weren't before.
Yeah.
And that's such a positive thing, not just for us, but for our partners and then for our children. You know, it feeds out, doesn't it?
Massively so. And look, and bring it back to my mate again, you know, when you're saying about it's good for the children, well, shit, yeah. I mean, they're grown up now without their dads.
Yeah.
You know, and that, I mean, that's incredibly heartbreaking just even thinking about that. So, yeah, look, it's good to talk, so they say. I still don't remotely do it enough.
Yeah.
I'm still, I mean, you talked about old dogs, new tricks earlier on. I'm trying. Some days it's easier than others, but deep down, I've got best part of 40 odd years of bottling shit up. And that's how I dealt with stuff. I just wouldn't open up, wouldn't tell anybody anything. So if I'm honest, I guess me and some of my mates again, we've maybe defaulted back a little bit to some of the standard stuff. But look, I think it's important. And this is why these types of conversations are important, because we all know it's good to talk. But if it was as simple as that, then you would do one of these or put a post out and say it's good to talk, and everyone would be fine. There would be no depression. We'd all be cured. But life doesn't work like that, right? You know, humans are a funny old beast where even when we know something's good for us or not good for us, we'll still do stuff.
Just look at people who, you know, just think people who drink and smoke, you know, we. But I mean, we all know, you know, we shouldn't be drinking, we shouldn't be smoking, we should be eating healthily and all of that stuff. But you know, we don't follow what we should do always. But so this is so important because your mental health is equally as important as your physical health and can have an impact on the other.
Massively. In some ways, in many ways, I'd argue it's more important. You know, I mean, certainly this conversation isn't designed to kind of go down this rabbit hole, but you know, I mean, you've got two elite athletes at the top of their game. One's mentally more prepared, more switched on, or whatever. They perform better. You know, so right the way from elite sports, right the way down to us people just struggling with daily bullshit. It is so important, so important.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's amazing. Firstly, you know, the how you're doing it in terms of the party, but I think, you know, it's more important just that you're having a conversation, regardless of how much you raise. And this is what we do. We do charity streams. You know, sometimes we raise a lot of money, sometimes we don't. But because we're still having a conversation and still talking about it, it's just as important as any money. And I think, you know, that's important for charities. And I hope, you know, we can big up Calm. We've done it on this channel. ADP does it. You know, you've done it. It's a great charity. And it's, again, just talking about stuff. So, yeah, I mean, just going to keep our fingers crossed for the weather now, for the weekend.
Well, I said we've got the rave igloo, so we're good.
Yeah, we've got a barn. There's a barn that we can get into, which we'll use probably Saturday night anyway. But if it is raining, then we can at least take most of it inside. Yeah. Yeah, it's Britain. I mean, it's just crazy, isn't it? End of July almost, and we're still going. Oh, it might be a bit rainy.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, we shouldn't be surprised. We've been spoilt with global warming over the last couple of years.
Yeah,
this very much feels like it's kind of back to default a little bit.
Yeah. But yeah. Well, it's been great chatting. I'm really looking forward to hearing about it afterwards. And we said we'll probably do an afterwards. And if you're in the chat and would be interested in coming on that show to talk about Suckerfest, then let's get a few more people on here. It might be interesting to hear from Sucker Side. I know Sam Tweaks, he didn't have a mic the other week. It was very strange watching one of Sam's streams without any sort of mic. But yeah, I'm going to find someone to raise. So do you want to have a few last words about Suckerfest?
If there's anyone in the chat that isn't already coming and is up to nothing at all this weekend, then look, come along, come and have a little drink, a little dance and party with us in the field. As I said, look, it's all for a good cause, if nothing else. But yeah, look, for me, the takeaway isn't about Suckerfest as such. It's more around that mental health bit. So if you take nothing else out of this, look after yourselves. That's the important bit.
Definitely. We're going to go see the Next Men. I think you mentioned them earlier on.
Yeah.
And they're a big part of Sundays. And it looks like they've got a pop-up. So let's go and see the Next Men.
Dom will be Dom, no doubt. See if he's on the Vino.
Yeah. And good evening, DJ Function. Right, I'm just going to tell you a couple of things that are coming up. Tomorrow night, we've got Shoestring Sound in the chat. We are doing a new show. We're going to be chatting about reggae. I'm a big fan of reggae, called the One Love Chat Show. That's from 8:30 p.m. tomorrow night. So if you like your reggae, if you like me, if you like Shoestring Sound, come and join us. And then hopefully we'll do another one of these after the weekend. And yeah, it's been great. Thank you so much for being a guest.
No, thank you very much for having me on. This again, all feels really weird that I'm being interviewed. Thank you very much.
Hopefully it hasn't been too hard. But more importantly, you know, thank you for your honesty and openness and frankness about stuff that's gone on. You know, it's not always easy, and like you say, people seeing guests talking about this stuff hopefully helps other people.
Hopefully,
definitely. Right. Take it easy, everyone. Enjoy Suckerfest if you're going. I'm going to have a good weekend at our end as well, and then we can link up afterwards, and then we can talk about our events, and then go from there. But if you hang out there for a minute, Toby, I'm going to raid out, and then we will just have a quick chat after the show. But thanks everyone for tuning in. You can watch it back on Mixcloud, listen on Mixcloud, and watch back on YouTube.